Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney,
And I'm MK.
and how are you?
I am good. I have spent the last couple weeks having nothing to do.
Amazing.
Um, I mean, that's not true. I have so many things I could be doing. Like I could be cleaning or like getting all my stuff moved into my house and unpacking things and writing thank you cards. And like I have things I could be doing, but I also have like no deadlines
Right.
for anything. And like books to read and naps to take and actually no, this is a crazy thing. I haven't been taking naps.
What are you?
And I figured out it's because when I'm not running myself so ragged I can't breathe, I'm not exhausted in the middle of the day.
You like sleep at night and stuff?
Right. Weird. Don't know who that person is,
That's
but
bonkers.
crazy. Crazy. Um, I did almost leave Dan yesterday. Um,
Yeah, for
because
good reason.
I I have never met someone who takes things that don't have anything to do with him so personally. And by that, I
Hold,
mean,
hold on. Have you met yourself?
listen,
Hold on. Rewind.
I have genuinely no idea what you're talking about. I read books that make me emotional and then I move on with my life on the outside.
Or you watch the Olympics and make them a part of your.
No, 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 no. Okay, listen, I take things on. I make them part of my personality. But like, here's the thing. If I'm watching the Olympics and the team I want to win doesn't win, I'm sad. But then I move on.
Mm,
Like, I understand that I absorb things, but I've heard women in labor with less breathing problems than Dan watching a football game.
oh, poor Dan.
And then he was like, I'm just I'm just nervous. I go, you fucking think. At
But
one
also,
point,
like, how are you so nervous? Did you watch the game? There were like 2 points. I was like, I don't know, that's great. But then otherwise, I was like, yeah, it's pretty clear Buffalo's gonna pull it out.
yeah, it was very stressful. It was very stressful.
It didn't feel
But
that stressful to me, but maybe I had less at stake.
you did have less at stake, and I don't know if you know, but Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are like the two best quarterbacks in the league. Um,
Yeah,
and also it was fucking cold. I don't know anybody.
it was so white.
Every time I saw like a player in short sleeves, I just go, but why? But why?
Yeah,
Um, of course, playing this weekend in Kansas City is not going to be any better.
correct.
Um,
That's gonna be a stressful game.
yeah, he's already stressed about it.
I'm a little stressed about it.
Also, how did Detroit lose?
Oh my God, I know. I have a, did I write that down in my notes? Um, I sure didn't. But on this day, one of the things that happened that I didn't write down was that one of the quarterbacks.
That was my chair moving. That all that noise was just me moving my chair.
Oh, it's Sadie's breathing. She's half
Oh,
asleep. I thought it was something
oh,
outside, and there's this cat that lives outside that drives me crazy,
oh,
but it's Sadie breathing. It's fine.
oh,
She's
okay.
allowed to breathe. So sorry. One of the quarterbacks, like oh God, I wish I could remember his name. Samuel something, I think. He died on the day of this episode coming out.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then I was like, that's kind of apropos because the Lions just lost, which is very sad. So it's a very sad day overall for them
Yeah.
today and when this episode came out.
Yeah.
And then I didn't
Yeah.
write it down. So here
Cool.
we are.
Here we are. Yeah, so the
Yeah, that
most
was bonkers.
so most this that was the most stressful thing in my life in the last couple weeks was just that. Um, but tomorrow is gonna be the most emotional day of my life. I don't because tomorrow I don't have to work. to teach. But I do work tomorrow in the evening at Shays. Tomorrow's my 10-year anniversary of working at Shays.
That's amazing.
And tomorrow's the Dancing with the Stars tour.
Who's on it this time? I think you've told me. I think you've told me on this podcast, but I don't remember.
I don't even care. I don't care who any of the dancers are. I care because the host of the show this year is Steven Adorosic.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. I forgot. Speaking of things that have nothing to do with you, that you put your whole heart into.
Yes.
Yeah. That's so exciting though.
Oh, which also tomorrow is the release of Onyx Storm.
Of what?
Onyx Storm. It's the third book in Rebecca Yarros's Fourth Wing series.
Oh, I have the first book and I haven't read it yet.
It's a big deal. People are very excited about it.
Have you read it?
No. Kate and Chrissy.
I was like, did you already make it through?
No.
Sarah J. Maas that you moved on to Yarrow series?
No. Kate and Chrissy have both read it. It is on my list to read when I finish the SJM books, but I was like, guys, I'm not going to finish it before Onyx Storm comes out anyway, so let me just live my SJM dream, and then I'll read all three of them after.
Perfect. I downloaded. I got the first one for free in some situation.
Yeah. But yeah, it's my Shay's anniversary. I'm going to meet Steven Adorosic, and Onyx Storm comes out. It's just a big day. And I don't have to work in the morning.
Oh, that's gonna be the perfect day.
It's gonna be the perfect day.
I love it.
How are you? How's your life?
I'm a little cold. But it's okay. I actually shouldn't be this cold. It's just me. I'm just cold all the time.
Yeah.
Because my house actually has really good like insulation. And so I don't know where my sensor is for my AC yet. So like I have it set on 70. But I don't think it feels 70 in here, but it might feel like 68. Like it's not much colder. Okay. It's just not quite right.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit cold, but I have some hot chocolate and I'm settled.
That's good.
But I'm finally home for the rest of my life. This is where you can find me. I'm not going anywhere else ever again.
I forgot.
And my parents came in right after I got back from the wedding. So I got back from the wedding and then worked for like a day and a half, and then my parents immediately came in. So I spent all of the time from the time I got back till they got here, like cleaning, arranging. I got this couch that I'm sitting on. Like it was a big 2 days before my parents were here. And then they were here for a week, which was very nice, but they don't know how to sleep right. So
yeah, the amount of I didn't sleep last night messages I got from you last week.
Because I would be up with them till 12 or 1 because, we'd watch movies or whatever.
Yeah.
But also like I was sleeping on the couch because they were in my bed because I haven't got my sleeper couch yet.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what that meant. They didn't know that meant they had to go to bed too. There's a TV in my room. I was like, you can watch the TV in my room. I'm going to watch the TV in here while I go to sleep.
Yeah.
But that does mean you have to get off of the couch I'm sleeping on.
Yeah.
And then like both my parents ended up sick with acid reflux. My dad was up the first night throwing up all night. And so then my mom was up the second night throwing up all night. And then she was on the couch with me all night in between being up and down. And so I didn't sleep at all. Then I would have work and then I'd go to work and they'd sleep till 1 or 2.
And then they'd be fresh and ready to do things when you got out of work. And
then
bitch.
I'd come home and they'd be asleep. They'd be napping. And then they'd be like, all right, time to go. And I'm like, I haven't slept in 4 days. But that's okay. We could go, I guess. We went downtown. I did learn. So we went downtown because they wanted to go to the place that had the original Velada. And so we went there. And it was actually very good. I hadn't had it yet either because I don't go downtown.
Yeah.
And we wandered around, looked at Jackson Square and whatnot. And I found out my favorite bar in New Orleans is still open. I thought it had closed. It's called Backspace Bar. I'm sure I've mentioned it at some point.
Yeah.
It's like a writer's bar. It has like typewriters on the wall.
Yeah.
It's a little different. It doesn't have the same like cocktails. Like it doesn't have the writer's cocktails anymore or anything. But it still has like some of the same decorations. It's just toned down a bit. Same vibe. They have like a fireplace and stuff. And I've always said I wanted to write my book there. And I've learned that it still exists. And I thought it closed. So
that's so nice.
that was very exciting. So I drugged them into that on the way out. Like we were going to the car and I was like, oh my God, it's Backspace Bar. I was like, we have to go in there. And they were like, what? What is going on? I was like, we have to go in here. And I didn't get it. I was driving, so I just got a beer. But they got cocktails and I tried both of theirs and they were very good. So
Very nice. Very nice.
so I'm good. I'm settling back in. I'm ready to be like real settled and not broke. Because that means I've also worked a lot less this month than I anticipated. So coming back out of that. Back out of that. Because I didn't hardly get any work done while they were here. I mean, I went to my job, but that one pays a little less than my other job.
Right.
So anything I was going to do at home, hardly got done.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I'm glad my parents came, though. I wanted them to see my house, and it was, good seeing them and whatnot, because I get to see them at Christmas.
Right.
So it was nice. I'm just still tired because they left Saturday at noon. Like, we left together for me to drive to Baton Rouge and go get Sadie. And so I have little Sadie back now. And then I stayed in Baton Rouge that night, and then I had to do all of my laundry, including all of the laundry they used. It was 7 loads of laundry. I think they used every blanket. They brought blankets to my house and they used them.
I have about 17 loads of laundry I need to do. But my washing machine broke. And when we called the repair guy, he was like, I'm gonna be honest with you. What it sounds like is wrong with it. Don't have me come fix it. It will cost you more than just getting a new one. And I was like, well, thanks for the honesty. Like, thanks for not taking the $150 to like come out and check it out and just tell me what you could tell me on the phone anyway. But yeah, so on Saturday we are getting our new washing machine delivered, and then I will spend the entire day Sunday just doing laundry.
Well, I don't have a washer dryer right now. I usually go to Rachel's, but I also don't usually have 7 loads of laundry to do in a week.
Yeah.
So my mom wore half my wardrobe, and they brought blankets and used all of my blankets and all of the blankets they brought.
Of course.
So I ended up not leaving Baton Rouge till after 4 yesterday. I got home at like 6:30 last night and still had work to do. So I came home and worked. And then I didn't go to work this morning until 10. I was just like, I texted Julia, I was like, I'm not gonna be there till 10. I will be there though, just not till 10. Because I knew the other girl that works with me had already called out because she texted me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I will be there. And then then that's why I ended up not leaving till like when I leave almost 6 is when I told you I'd be home at 6. I didn't leave the office until almost 6. But I got caught up on everything. And now I can't leave my house for 2 days even if I wanted to. So
my work keeps saying that they're anticipating us opening back up on Wednesday. It's supposed to be colder on Wednesday, so I don't really know why they think that that's going to happen. So I might, I don't know, never go to work again.
I think it's supposed to be colder here on Wednesday too, but it's supposed to snow tomorrow. But I mean, the roads are going to be icy, so like I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, don't.
I mean, I have new tires, but they're not snow tires. I haven't had snow tires since I was in New York.
Right.
So who's to say? Anyways,
I've never had snow tires ever, and I live in New York, but I'm just an asshole. So
I got those like all weather tires or something when I first moved, which I drove in the middle of a snowstorm. So they were like, you have good tires. That's the most snow I ever saw in New York was the day I drove into New York.
Yeah.
It was a bummer because I thought I was going to get that every year, and it really set me up for failure.
It did, because it doesn't snow in the city.
It sure doesn't, except this year. Did you know that? This year it snowed a lot. It snowed on Christmas Day. I've been so mad at New York this year.
I don't think it snowed on Christmas Day here.
Yeah, well, it did in the city. So
fucking them.
I know. I was so mad. But yeah, so otherwise, I'm fine. But you know what made me even better?
Probably not what I'm about to say.
You're probably right. I forget sometimes.
In the 8th grade, my English class had to read Romeo and Juliet. Then, for extra credit, Mrs. Snyder made us act out all the parts. Scaffarillo. Sorry, I couldn't read this kid's name. Sal Scaffarillo was Romeo. As fate would have it, I was Juliet. All the other girls were jealous, but I had a slightly different take. I told Mrs. Snyder that Juliet was an idiot. For starters, she falls for the one guy she knows she can't have. Then she blames fate for her own bad decision. Mrs. Snyder explained to me that when fate comes into play, choice sometimes goes out the window. At the ripe old age of 13, I was very clear that love, like life, is about making choices, and fate has nothing to do with it. Everyone thinks it's so romantic, Romeo and Juliet. True love. How sad. If Juliet was stupid enough to fall for the enemy, drink a bottle of poison, and go to sleep in a mausoleum, she deserved whatever she got.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
That's exactly how I teach Romeo and Juliet.
And Juliet's coming here, I think next month.
It's
so good. You know.
So good.
Hoping to wrangle Rachel up to go.
Nice.
So we're both so busy.
The next show that's coming here is The Wiz, and I can't go.
I think The Wiz is coming here. I don't remember when. I've never seen it.
It's coming here in March, but it's the same week as the Tech Week for the musical at dance school, and so I have to sell our tickets.
It's a bummer.
It is a bummer.
Yeah, maybe I'll just.
And I can't even like work a shift to make up for not being able to see it because I'll be at the theater the whole time. So, whatever. I don't know. I'm sad, but I am seeing Shocked on my birthday, so I don't care.
Shocked is so funny.
Dan was like, what are you? Because his birthday's this week. So he was like, what do you want to do for your birthday? I know it's a couple months out, but like, do you have thoughts? I go, I don't know. We're going to be at the theater on my birthday. And he was shocked, right? I go, yes. Yes.
I hope you love it. It's wild. I hope you love it.
Okay. Well, I guess it's time to jump into this.
It's time to do this thing.
Oh, hold on. I just lost you.
Okay. Am I back? Okay.
Yeah.
It's because I have my board in front of me now, which is bad news.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of things in front of me while I'm recording. So we'll see how long that lasts. So this week we are talking about Hannibal, season 3, episode 5, Contorno. It aired July 2nd of 2015. It was rated 9 out of 10, which felt a little high, but compared to the rest of the season, it is a little bit better, I think.
Probably. I don't know. I genuinely have no memory of the episode.
That's all right. I'll tell you all of it. Our number one song is See You Again. So I remember this because this was also the year when my friends passed away, which was very fun when this song came out. It did not make me depressed at all.
This song, I forgot that it came out when it came out because like I kind of knew it came out at the time. But then I moved to Thailand where they were like 3 years behind on music, and it was like the most popular song all over again.
That's
and I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, it came out right before I graduated college. And so that's how I remember.
Yeah.
Number one movie was Inside Out.
Oh.
The best. I still haven't watched the second one yet.
I told you my opinion. It's my spoiler-free review on the podcast. So
yeah, me and Nick and Rachel are supposed to watch it together, so we haven't watched it yet. But we will, because every time we tried to watch it, Disney Plus didn't work. So it wasn't really our fault. It was Disney's fault.
Rachel's currently eating 500 hash browns or hush puppies. I mean,
bro. Yeah, so it doesn't want to know yet. But yeah.
Oh, I didn't explain it. You're the one saying weird things. Yeah, no, I just know she's eating
sent me that puppies. She texted me. So we had hush puppies last week from Spars, and she fell in love with them. And then we had hush puppies 2 nights later from Jaegers. And then she texted me today, and she was like, I need hush puppies. And I texted her to say, how is Sadie? And her response was, I need hush puppies. And I was like, that's not how Sadie is. Because I set up my camera and it fell over. Sadie probably knocked it over.
Probably.
But then I couldn't see her, and it was her first day here by herself. And so I was nervous. And I was like, can you go check on her when you get off? But she kept running behind at work. So Nick had to come check on her, which was also fine. But then no one told me how she was. And so I was like, how's Sadie? And then she was like, I need hush puppies. And then I got to her house to pick up my dinner because she's the one who gave me leftover pizza instead of me having to cook tonight.
Okay.
And so I went and got my pizza, and she's like, guess what I'm having for dinner? And I was like, what? She said, spars. I said, like leftovers? Because I had leftover spars last night for dinner because that's how recent it was we went to spars.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, Nick's getting me hush puppies.
Yeah.
You are an insane person.
Yeah. I was like, she just messaged me that Nick brought her hush puppies, and I was like, girl. But also, I haven't had hush puppies in so long. I would eat the shit out of that box
Bro,
of
they're
hush puppies.
really good hush puppies, to be fair. However, I had 3 of them, and I'm good for a while. Like,
yeah, which makes sense. And that's, I just hit myself in the face. That makes sense, and that's fair. I just also genuinely don't know the last time I had hush puppies. So I would
if you
fuck
come
them
visit
up.
me, I have offered my house to your entire family.
And some of my friends.
And some of your friends at Buffalo, and only so many of you are going to fit in here. But if you come down, if Buffalo goes to the Super Bowl and y'all come down, we could go get hush puppies. I know a place. It's Rachel's house. I'm just kidding. I know another place. But yeah. So I hope Buffalo goes to the Super Bowl for y'all's sake.
Me too.
And you are welcome to stay with me. I do live about 40 minutes from the Superdome, but
for the sake of my marriage, I hope Buffalo goes to the Super Bowl.
Me too. Sorry. Like,
that was the worst timing to make that face at the camera. You were like, yeah, I hope your marriage is okay.
No, my text message just come up on my screen. And it's one of my friends that texts me nonsense all the time. And it annoys me. And so that was my annoyed face because they're like, are you gonna be home during the snowy weather tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yes. Alone.
I am. Don't come near me.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. I have to tell you a whole story to get off. So where am I? Number 1 book of this day is, we should not be letting me lead a podcast episode. Finders Keepers by Stephen King.
Okay.
Which has been like for years, it feels like now.
Yeah.
And on this day, Nicholas Winston, who saved more than 650 Jewish children in the Holocaust, died at 106. Which is sad, but he did live a very long life, so that's good for him. Nathan Collier Collier, I don't know, I'm back in French land, so I'm saying it in a French way. I'm sure that's not how you say it. From Sister Wives, requested to marry his second wife on this day. He petitioned the court. And the Episcopal Church allowed same-sex marriage. What a day.
That's a lot of different marriage news.
A lot of different things. I know. Lots of marriage news. Our director is Guillermo Navarro, who we know.
Yeah.
Our writers are Steve Lightfoot and Tom DeVille.
Okay.
We have not seen Tom DeVille yet. He is known for Urban Gothic, The Quiet Ones, Lucky Man, and Lex with 2 X's. Couldn't really find anything else about him. That was kind of it, and those were kind of the only movies he's really worked on that he's known for. So that's fine.
Cool.
The Quiet Ones does sound interesting. I just saw that came up on the TV like day before yesterday, and I was like, I might want to watch that. It's a horror film, but it looks pretty good. And our editor is Ben Wilkinson. Our special guest, thanks to reviewing our last episode to know who I was supposed to talk about, is Joe Anderson, who plays Mason Berger.
Joe Anderson?
Joe Anderson. I know Joe Anderson. I did not know that. I did not know that I love him because he doesn't look like himself at all in this show, obviously.
My problem is that there is a guy on the Bills named Joe Anderson who's from Buffalo.
Not that one.
And it is definitely not that guy.
No, not that one. No. This one is known for The Crazies, The Ruins, The Gray. He also played Alistair in Breaking Dawn 2.
Oh.
He most recently was John Francis Vader in the 2024 season of Doctor Who. I am not up to date, so I have no more information for you than that. However, he plays Max Kerrigan on one of my favorite movies of all time, Across the Universe. And never in a million years would you have put Mason Berger and Max Kerrigan in a room and me say, yep, those are the same person. Not at all. Joe Anderson.
No, I know.
Oh, John Francis Vader. It was in the
Oh,
episode Boom, if that's helpful.
yes. Yep, I know who that is. Um, he's got a blindfold on and is about to be exploded by a bomb for that entire episode. So I also wouldn't have been able to tell you what his face was either.
Have you seen Across the Universe though?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies. I watched it like once a week in high school. Um, but he plays Max Kerrigan. I had no idea. I mean, I hate him in the movie because he's a real jerk.
Yeah.
But as an actor,
Yeah.
great job. A
Good.
plus.
A
Um,
plus.
and some fun facts about him: he studied photography. He's English, and he lived on a houseboat for a while.
Love that.
So now I love getting into the episode. I'm also using this like giant notebook because I didn't have a notebook at work that wasn't like a to-do list. And so I had to borrow one from Rachel.
Perfect.
So we start with a recap, which is very helpful since we have not watched the show in ages. You still haven't watched it in
Still
ages,
haven't
I'll
watched the
tell you
show
what
in
the recap
ages.
says. It's
Great.
basically a recap telling us that Hannibal is in Europe. We see Mason talking with Alana. We see how Will has come across oh my gosh, I meant to look up her name. It's like Chio or something, I think. The she was the assistant to the aunt, to Hannibal's aunt.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but I forgot what her name in the show is. Where are the characters? Yeah, Chio. Um, and so we see that they were last together because obviously we saw where she killed, or yeah,
Yeah.
she had
Yeah.
killed the guy who was a prisoner. Um, and so then we break into this like beautiful imagery of nothing concrete, but beautiful image.
Uh-huh.
And we go to Chio and Will. And there she's reminiscing about Hannibal, and she says that he also had acted like kind of a mentor to her, and he would burn incense and he would burn sticks, different things, and teach her how to recognize them just by smell alone. Because we obviously know he has the best smell of anyone on the
Right.
planet. And she says that he was always really charming, and she says he was charming like a cub. And Will, like they talked about like kind of this distinction, and Will's like, yeah, who's like it's a cub that grows up to be like a dangerous cat that you can't play with, which feels like a weird, like why wouldn't you just say bear? I don't know, but he said he said large cat, and
Lion cub
oh, I guess
or
lion
a
cub. I was
tiger
thinking, well,
cub.
he said bear cub though. They said bear cub. She may have said bear cub, but he may have said cat.
Oh, because I was like, if you said cub, yes, my first thought would be bear, but also like tigers are cubs.
I guess that's true too. I guess that's true too. I don't know. I just
And I mean,
it made a weird leap for me.
I mean, a baby tiger is charming and cute, and you want to play with it.
True.
And then
Well,
an
so
adult
is a baby
tiger,
bear.
yeah, but I'm less threatened by an adult bear than I am by an adult tiger. Is that weird?
Hmm. Think so because I think there are different types of bears too, and all tigers are pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
Like you have like sun bears.
I was literally thinking of sun bears. Like, what is the least threatening bear? A sun bear, obviously.
Absolutely, of course, common knowledge.
Now I'm just like picturing, remember that Chinese zoo that had the sun bear that was just a person in a bear costume, and they were like, no, it's a real bear.
No, you're not.
There was this zoo in China that had like a short person in a bear costume, like pretending to be a sun bear, and it got like all over the internet. And they were like, no, we didn't do that. It's a real bear, but it's clearly a man in a bear costume.
Wild.
But now I'm just like picturing Mads Mikkelsen standing there in a bear costume, like.
I cannot. I cannot. Oh my gosh, that's bonkers. Mm,
And
yeah.
I've already lost control.
It's all right. It happens to the best of us. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, we also learned in this moment that she was actually supposed to meet with Hannibal and his sister whenever she met with him, but
Yeah.
obviously the sister was not there. Um, I'm sorry, things are so many people are doing so many things, and I've gotten added to this group chat. The one that you're supposed to be voted into, I got added to it. Lovely, wonderful. They talk a lot. So I get distracted a lot.
What?
Okay, I'll tell you about that after. I thought I told you about this before. Maybe I haven't. I live in a fever dream. We'll just start there and just throw everything under
Great,
that
great. I mean,
caveat.
obviously, I live in a fever dream too because I'm watching Chinese zoos.
That's a little more like apropos for you. Like you know, that I'm not surprised by that. Like um so this is actually what they talk about him coming in the guise of a mentor.
Yeah.
And Will starts bringing up the murder and he's like of the prisoner guy and he's like, so like how do you feel? Like, do you see yourself killing this guy over and over and over? Because that's obviously how he felt. And she's like, no, I see you. And I was like, okay. Um,
I can see
and
that.
right, because she's like, you were more, I'm trying to remember how she said it, but basically she was like, you're more malleable than I
Yeah.
am. And so Hannibal's able to get to you a lot easier than he's able to get to me. Like I make my own choices and like
Right.
so I don't see that. And then they start doing these crazy visuals again. And I don't remember which visual this was, but I just put whoever's doing visuals is running wild because they
Yeah.
went bonkers this episode. Like this season has been a little bit extra, but this episode was like extra, extra.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of why the episodes are like running together in my mind is because I'm like, this little detail happened, and then a bunch of weird fucking camera shit happened,
Yeah.
and then this little piece of the story happened. And it just feels very disjointed and I don't that's why I remember as we're talking about this, I remember one detail from this episode. Like when
Is
you
it
were
the
like,
last
it
bit?
was the train.
Oh,
That's
sure.
the only thing I remember.
Yeah, yeah. And that is the least important perhaps thing that happened. But that's okay.
I don't know. I wouldn't call it the least important thing.
Oh, that part. I thought
That
you meant
part
when
of
they
the
were on a
train.
train. I
No,
see. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
thing that
Mhm.
happens on the train.
Right, 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 right.
I was like,
I'm
I
with
would
you.
not call that the least important part of the episode.
So then we go to Hannibal and Bedelia, and they're just having all of these like metaphorical conversations about snails and fireflies. And I could have written more about their conversation. Didn't feel necessary because we've been having these metaphorical conversations about snails since the beginning.
Yeah.
So I didn't think it was necessary to talk about them more. Um,
No, I think
and
you're.
then yeah, so then we but then she starts talking about like reciprocity and she's like, do you find it strange? Like, Will is currently on his way here to kill you, and you're just waiting to kill him. And she's like, that's what I think like true reciprocity is. Um, which is valid.
Yeah.
And then we see this like weird firefly man, which we also had seen in the beginning. He's just kind of like, um,
That's the guy that Will killed, who was in the
yeah,
dungeon. Yeah.
yeah, but they like make him like a they
Yeah,
the visuals that they do to make him look
yeah,
like
but we also on the podcast were talking about how fucking weird it was when they were tying him up in the first place, and we were
that's
like,
true
"What is
too.
even happening?" And now it's just like, here is the handiwork, here is
Yeah,
the art piece. But I mean, and it's weird, but I guess it's not as weird as any of the other weird crimes that like
that's
Hannibal's done,
true.
like the Tree Man and
It just feels more like they put more ethereal backing behind it, I guess, is what it
But yeah,
is.
because
Like,
the visuals in this whole season don't make any
right.
sense. But like
Right.
as a standalone, like this man
Yeah.
hanging up, like the judge and the tree man and like
Yeah.
and the beehive lady stuff, like all of that is just as weird.
Right. Like I can get behind all of that. I mean, I can't get behind any of that because it's insane. But like I can see the
Correct.
correlation between what's
Correct.
happening. It's just that they put so many visuals behind it that I'm like, this just feels like you're trying to
Yeah.
make a Rorschach of like human murders now. And
Yeah.
it's just very strange. Um, so then we go to Jack, and he is scattering Bella's ashes into the river, which is illegal. So do not do that, especially in Italy. They will arrest you on the spot. And IMDb has made sure to tell you if you didn't know.
Oh, good, good, good,
But
good. Also, just as like a friendly PSA, don't fucking do it on the Haunted Mansion either.
yeah, yeah, don't do it like anywhere at Disney. That's not
It's
kosher.
no. Because if you do it on the Haunted Mansion and you think you're doing something great, they will just vacuum it up and then your
Mhm.
relative will be in a vacuum cleaning bag in the
Mhm.
garbage somewhere. Like, don't,
And if they catch you, you will for sure be in trouble.
yeah, it's not worth it.
So it's not worth it.
Just buy some weird like Haunted Mansion themed box and put their ashes in it like at your house. Like, don't
Yeah,
fuck everybody else's life up.
right, right. Or build a tree with your bodies.
That's what I'm gonna do.
That's what I want to do too. I'm split between that. I say this is the 17th time I've said this on the podcast, but I either want to do that or be like a body farm of sorts for like being studied.
Yeah.
There's just not good limitations on like when you donate your body, you don't necessarily get to decide where you donate it when it comes to studies and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so like if you pick a tree or a garden, like you're getting planted as a tree or a garden. Like
Right.
even if you don't get to pick like the tree or whatever, which is fine. Like that's all the same to an extent. But
Yeah.
like if I'm being used for medical studies for whatever or crime scene study, like I gotta have a little more say in that.
Yeah. That's
And you
fair.
just don't really get that right now.
Yeah.
We'll see. Um, so he also during this whole thing throws his ring into the water, which I don't understand. I guess he wanted it to be with Bella, but I feel like he's gonna be sad later that he doesn't have his wedding band. So
I would agree.
feels like a bad choice.
Also, like I also don't really like it as like a character thing because Jack feels like the kind of guy who would like never take it off and still be
Right.
married to Bella 40 years after she died. Like he doesn't seem like the kind of like immediately take my wedding ring off kind of guy.
Right. And then they talk about it immediately because when he goes to talk with Inspector Patsy and his wife, um, he's talking with them and they're like, "Oh, you took your ring off." And he's like, "Oh, you kept yours on." Like it was a
Yeah.
whole situation. And I was like, and he's so also super casual about being widowed. And I was like, you've been through a lot of trauma, not even just Bella dying. Like, you're a little
Right.
too
But also
casual.
like with everything that happened and how upset you were about her wanting to die, I, talking about it in conversation feels very out of character. Like the
Absolutely.
writing is just weird.
Yeah. It was strange. Like Jack's character feels a
It
little
feels
out of
off. Like
character this
something
episode.
like they're not
Yeah.
writing him consistently, and I'm not about it. And honestly,
Yeah, I don't
I
love
think
it.
that's one of the reasons why I'm struggling. The visuals of this season are weird, but I'm also struggling with this season because the characters just don't feel like the same characters from like last season. They're not written as well this season.
Right, which is weird because Steve Lightfoot is on almost every episode
No,
so
I
far.
know. I
Like it's the same
know.
writer, so it
It's
should not feel so out of
nothing
place.
has changed really. So why has everything changed? Because I think both Jack and Will are being written very
Mhm.
inconsistently.
I think so too, because even like when you look at the direction, like we have Guillermo Navarro, and he did have some like weirder visual episodes last season. They were a little bit darker, they were a little bit more like edgy, but it didn't change like it didn't change the flow of the show.
Yeah.
It just changed the vibe of the episode, I
And if
guess,
the
but it didn't feel
character
out of place.
if the characters were still characters that I recognized, I could probably live with the weird visuals. But
Yeah.
I don't feel like any of them are congruent with what they were written like last season.
Yeah. It feels like we've completely changed the style of the show.
Yeah.
Like both writing of the characters, the style of the characters, the dialogue, the like visual,
Yeah.
like everything feels like it's like
Off.
that was one Hannibal show and this is a different Hannibal show that someone else created 5 years later as an homage. Like,
Yes.
and that's a shame.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so he's chatting with them and he starts talking about like playing outside the law. And he was like, I know that's kind of like what you're thinking. Like, you can't do that though. He's like, when I did that, I lost like 100%. Which is true. And so then we jump over to
Right.
our new besties, Alana and Mason, which is my least favorite pairing I've ever seen, I think, in my whole life.
Yeah.
Um, and so they're looking at like Hannibal's table setting and discussing like what type of like silverware he used, what type of dishes he used, how he plates things, and like they're going through this whole like rigmarole for his like dinner parties essentially. And then Mason makes it weird and he is talking about like they're talking about like the taste and how they like they appreciate everything he says, even if he's like insane. And he's
Yeah.
like, how do you taste? You've tasted each other. And then he just gets weirder and weirder. And I was like, this is icky. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel out of place for Mason, but I don't like where it's at in this episode.
No, no.
Um,
But I thought that that whole thing was weird that they like were gonna track him by his silverware. Until I'm so I got my knife block.
the second one.
The one that was on
Oh,
my
the block.
registry.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
block, the one that was
yeah,
on my
yeah.
registry. And these knives are amazing. And I was picked up one of the knives today and I just was like, it is so sharp and so light and so perfectly balanced that I shouldn't be allowed to have this knife. And Dan was like, what? And I was like, is that not a thing that sane people say? Um, but I
Poor
was like,
Dan.
just like obsessing over this knife as if I could like kill someone with it. And then I was like, but I also now know that I would never want any other kind of like I will never get a different brand of knives because
Yeah, because you found them.
yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So like I guess that's the thing that adults do is they like choose styles of cutlery and use them forever. Like
I do think that's a thing people talk about. I'm not there yet, but I do hear that other
yeah.
people say that.
So now I do understand how they could track him by his silverware.
Sure, sure, yeah. Um, well, Bloom completely ignores this like weird conversation of questioning
Well,
that
yeah,
Mason
because
does.
it's fucking
And
weird.
yeah. And she just completely switches gears back and starts talking about his taste of food and wine. And she's like, I hate to agree with Hannibal on anything. She was like, but I would always like refer to his judgment on the taste for food and wine because he
Yeah.
just is so top notch. Um, and then she starts talking about Bedelia's purchase at the store.
Mhm.
And she was like, this is how you know that like you can find where he is because it's a blonde woman who's going every day, paying in cash and getting like the same things. And
And it's truffles and wine. So like
right, like it's
it's
obvious.
not like oh I bought a bottle of Dr. Pepper and a baguette every day
No,
because
but then
I
we know
would.
they were shopping for you. Yeah. So no questions remain. No more
Right.
questions. Um, and so that's how she knows where he is.
Yeah.
So we go back to Will and Chio, and they are laying in bed, and she asks if they're required to talk anymore. And he's like, no, but then they do continue talking. And she's like, good, because I've been so quiet for so long that like it feels weird to talk this much. I was like,
I
oh, I
mean,
feel that
same
sometimes.
girl.
Yeah. And she starts talking about, he was like, oh, were you like, felt lonely? She's like, I never felt like empty or anything, but she said, I felt more like not his victim, but like his taxidermy. She was like filled with something else. Oh, and this is where she was talking about how malleable
Will
Will
is.
was, and she
Yeah.
was like, I can handle it a little bit better. Um, and they talked about it, and she's like Will and Hannibal talk about how they offer each other an experience that they would otherwise have never had, which is
Yeah.
very true. And for the best.
I I mean, I'd be happier if they had never had it.
Right, right. It feels like a real shot in the dark that they came together anyways, but here we are.
Here we
Um,
are.
so we go back to the inspector who is going to talk to who he believes to be Dr. Fell. But however, when Hannibal turns around, he recognizes him because obviously we know he had met him so many years before. And then we start learning about the inspector a little bit more. He is Inspector Patsy of the Patsy family, who is this very famous family. And they told me all about it, and I only half paid attention.
Yeah.
But they were a very famous and important family throughout the years. And you can see that Hannibal knows he's going to have to kill him because obviously he recognized him.
Right.
And so the inspector
And
goes
because
off to
Hannibal apparently doesn't give a shit about killing anybody anymore. Like the number
for
of people
sure,
he has killed without
just like all
concern
in.
in this episode or in this season, wild.
Mhm. Yeah, no question. So Inspector Patsy goes to find his file, and he obviously sees that it is Hannibal from years before, and he goes to make a call on the payphone. However, he's not calling the authorities. He's not calling his boss. He's not reporting any of this. He's calling to earn a bounty on him because, as we know, Mason Burgers put out an award for Hannibal.
Yeah.
And then he calls about this bounty, and he's like, I need to know if this goes around basically the legal authorities because he's not allowed to accept a reward as a police officer, obviously. But it's a lot of money. So he's like, I can do this. And I put, he should have just turned him in instead of messing around. I knew from this point it was not going to go well.
No, there was nothing. The second he picked up a payphone instead of arresting him, I was like, he's done.
Yeah. I thought he was going to die at the payphone, but we did make it a little bit longer than that.
Just a little bit.
Just barely. So then we go back to Hannibal, who's like, we have visuals of him drawing a picture and then him playing his harpsichord. And then Bedelia walks in and he starts telling her all about his day. And he's like, this is the inspector. Like, I think he recognized me. Like, we're going to have to see how this plays out or whatever. And he's just saying, like, I'm just going to let him stew on it and see how it goes.
Which is a choice.
And it's a choice.
It also doesn't feel very in character either.
I felt like that one didn't feel as out of character for me because it was like, we're going to let him make his own choice. And like, whether he tries to turn him in, like let him hang himself almost is what he's doing.
I guess it did. No, the telling Bedelia everything about it felt weird because like he hasn't given us any indication that he trusts her.
Yeah. It feels weird, but like logically thinking about it, like he's told her his whole life story.
That's
his whole life. So like it theoretically, like it overall, I'm like, okay, I can see how that plays out.
Their relationship is just so confusing to me.
It's so bonkers. Like it makes no sense. And I still can't decide if she's like Stockholm syndrome, if she's like just decided to be in on it, or if she is just like waiting for her moment to escape. Like,
or I don't know. All of the above. Like it feels like
all of the above.
I don't. Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. So then we go to Will and Gio, and they're chatting, and she tells him that she's not searching for Hannibal because she knows exactly where he is. And Will's like, what? She's like, he's in Florence. And he's like, why would you like not talk about this whole time if you like know all this about him? And she just kind of blows it off and she kisses him. And then she tells him that she says violence is what he understands. And then she pushes him over the rafters.
Off of the train. Yeah, she
onto the train track.
Off of the train. Yeah, when I was like, wait, what even did happen in this episode? The only image I had was Will falling off of a train. And I was like, that was kind of a big one. Yeah, no.
Yep. And he's on the train tracks, and we see a nose, which I assume is the deer thing, waking him up to make sure he doesn't die. And then we go back to Inspector Patsy talking to Mason, and we learn about his whole stipulation for Mason's advance. He says he offers $100,000 for a fingerprint, but this fingerprint has to be very specific. He's going to have a specific item that he can touch, et cetera, so he can know that it's fresh and it's touch print, not it's taken. He has all of these different things he's requiring. But then his second amount is he's offering $3 million for Hannibal alive. And so then Bloom pops into the picture and she's like, just to confirm, you know that you're selling Hannibal to torture and death. Like those are the things that are going to happen.
Yeah. Not, if this kid gets him, it will not be good.
Right. And Patsy's like, yeah. $3 million. Absolutely. No question. And get the monster of Florence. Yeah, no question. Sure.
Done.
Which like is a fair way to fill. However, you're not going to be able to do it. But were that to play out as easily as it sounds in your brain, that'd be fine.
I get it. I mean, I don't agree that it's the correct way to handle it.
Sure.
But like I get it.
Right, right.
So
Um, yeah. So then Patsy goes to visit Hannibal and he brings an iron helmet for him to see. And he starts telling him, he was like, this is, from my family. You had asked about the Patsies. Like, this is one of our family heirlooms. It was used essentially as a torture device. And he was
right.
like, here it is. I wanted you to see this. And Hannibal starts making a correlation to um, Francisco, someone I forgot his name, um, being disemboweled and going through this whole scenario. And I was like, great, great, great. And he starts talking about him being eaten for basically for like stealing money, and all of these things. Like it was a little more convoluted than that, but that is
Yeah,
what it boils down to, um, which is a correlation to what Patsy's doing essentially. And then he chloroforms him. Um, we go back to Jack. And he is currently with Patsy's wife, having some coffee. And she's like, Patsy should be home by now. And then she just looks at Jack and says, what has he done? And I was like, she knows, bless her heart.
yeah.
So then we go back to Hannibal and Patsy. And don't fret, Patsy is not dead yet, but he is for sure displayed on a dolly, just like Hannibal Lecter in the movies,
Yep.
that we see. So direct correlation there. And he says that he knew, even though there was no police, that he knew when there was no police, that the only other option was that Patsy was trying to sell him for a bounty. And he was basically trying to see which of those things was going to happen.
Right.
Um,
Which like that's smart.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
also I think jumping to conclusions a little bit, but I guess not because it was correct.
Right. It feels like jumping to conclusions, but it's also a true story. Um, and so in the midst of all of this, Bloom calls Patsy, hopefully to be like, Mason's a lunatic. Don't talk to him.
Yeah,
Hannibal will kill you.
correct.
Um, but instead, Hannibal answers the phone. And he's like, oh, lovely to hear from you. I would love nothing more than to just sit around and chat with you. But unfortunately, I'm in the middle of something right now. It's a little awkward. And I was just like, guess that's one way to describe it. Um, and so then he, of course, disembowels Patsy and he hangs him. And as he like goes to hang him over the like thing, he sees Jack down below. And Jack barrels up the stairs towards Hannibal. And Hannibal tells him that he's sorry for Bella. And he's like, I know you've been through a lot. Like, this must have been a really hard few months or whatever. I hope you got my card. I hope you got my well wishes, blah, blah, blah. And then they fight again. They have another dance fight, um, which all makes a lot more sense when you know that Mads Mikkelsen is a dancer.
Yeah.
Let's go with Lawrence Fishburne. Don't think he was a dancer, but that's okay.
No.
He did fine. And Jack like gets the upper hand and he like puts him through a glass wall and then he turns around to leave but goes back because he sees one of those like grappling hooks
Yeah.
and he goes over and he knocks him out of the window. However, Hannibal then stands up and walks away. And like we know he's not dead, but like I thought maybe this was where they caught him. I thought this might
Right.
be it.
Because I mean,
But I
I guess they don't even have to. Like in my mind I was like, no, they have to this season, but like I guess
I mean,
they
they
don't.
don't because this was supposed to be 7 seasons. We don't know that
All
he's
right.
caught at the end of one of them. But that is the end of the episode. What do you think?
Um, now that we've talked about it, I do in fact remember it. I watched it. I didn't care for that last scene because it was gross. There's a lot of gross. Um, Sometimes they get a little too real with the gore, and I go, I don't like it. Um, I I have no idea. The only thing that I know for sure about this season is that the plot of the Hannibal Rising movie is going to happen,
Mhm.
or not Hannibal Rising,
No, Hannibal, Hannibal, just Hannibal.
just Hannibal. Okay, what are the?
Isn't it
Oh,
Hannibal?
is it
Hannibal
Hannibal?
Rising was was
The prequel thing.
Manhunter,
Manhunter and Red Dragon are the two.
Red Dragon. Yeah, yeah.
Hannibal is the one we haven't
Is
watched yet.
next.
Yes.
Yes.
Which I forgot, and I was doing a Sporkle quiz, and it said that Julianne Moore was in Hannibal, and I was like,
And you're
no,
like, no,
she
she's
wasn't.
not.
And then I was like, wait, no, I didn't watch that one. Yeah. No, so all I know is that the Red Dragon plot happens at some point this season.
Right.
But I don't know if that means that they do kidnap him and then they have the whole like he's in jail helping thing. I don't know if it's they're gonna change it up enough that like he is out. I don't
Right.
know. I don't know if the show ends in a satisfying way or not because it wasn't supposed to be the last season. Like, but all I know is that we're almost halfway through the season and I haven't enjoyed the season yet, like at all.
Yeah.
This episode was, I guess, the most plot like episode so far, but I don't know. I'm just struggling because the first two seasons were so good and I'm so invested in
Yeah.
these characters and I just don't care this season. Like I didn't watch the episode. I watched the episode 6 weeks ago and I literally was like, it's too much work to watch it again.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I feel like we're getting a lot of cop out. Like speaking of that last scene, that
Yeah.
last fight with Jack and Hannibal just feels like the same fight they had that opened and closed season two. Like it felt
Yeah.
like that was just unnecessary. It was like lazy writing. They should have written something different.
Right.
And maybe they were trying to be like, this was it last time, and Jack was the one on the ground, and this time it's Hannibal. But it seemed like Hannibal sort of moved away. Like
Yeah. Right.
it didn't. I mean, nothing different happened except he's a little more beat up than he was before.
Right. And I think the other problem is that like after last season and the fact that everybody survived except for Abigail, like and Abigail, that was the third time that she was dead and not really dead.
Mhm.
Like I just the stakes don't exist in the show. And
Yeah.
like you're working with characters like because you know he wants the show to last for 7 seasons and because those four characters really kind of can't go anywhere. Like you're not going to have 7 seasons of the show if you don't have Hannibal and Will, and you're
Right.
probably not going to get rid of Jack or Alana. Not really. Like now that all of the expendable characters that we care about, like Beverly's gone, what's her name's gone, Abigail's gone, um, like so Bedelia is really the only one left that is well, and Mason, but
No
I
one cares
don't
about him.
nobody cares about him. Bedelia is the only character that you care about at all that is left that seems like there's any
Yeah.
like stakes to. And I think that's part of the problem is that they did such a big ending for season 2 and then we're like, just
Mhm.
kidding, everyone's okay.
Right.
And now I no longer trust that they're going to give me any high stakes anything.
Yeah. And that's like, and that's such a valid point because like there have been other shows that have like killed people and brought it back, kill people and brought it back over and over. And it's like, I know
I mean,
that this is part of
Stargate
it.
kills people and brings them back
Sure.
every week.
And I'm like, I get it, but like I still care. And also like the thing is with this season is I think they have a really good storyline set up. I think kidnapping Bedelia, I think having this like all out manhunt for Hannibal is
Yeah.
really very captivating for the show. And it is where we've been leading because we've been leading, like he's been in plain sight the whole time. Now we have to hunt him down. But they're
Yeah.
not doing it. They're leaving it as this like ethereal fever dream instead of making it like a real action heavy manhunt, which is what they should have done. They should have
Yeah.
like if they were going to do this, they should have done it.
Yeah.
And they just haven't. It's very strange, and it just like we said, it feels out of place. And I just don't understand why these choices were made.
And it's unfortunate, but I think this is where we see the curse of Brian Fowler. Like
Mhm.
we look at how Dead Like Me was going until then it wasn't. And like you didn't see Pushing Daisies, but I did. And I also know that What's the other one? Oh,
Weeds.
Wonderfalls. Oh, Weeds. I didn't watch Weeds.
I didn't
So I
watch
don't,
Weeds either.
but I also know that Wonderfalls had an issue where it just like he has these really grand ideas and he puts it all on the table and then
Gets in a fight with someone, it
gets in a
falls
fight with
apart.
someone and it falls apart, or like has a beginning and an end, and then the middle is kind of not quite there.
Yeah.
And like he is a big ideas man. He's not a details man.
Right.
Um, and I think this is really suffering
Yeah.
from
I think
that.
so too. I think so too.
Which is
Um,
is unfortunate because like the ideas that, and because he writes these fascinating characters. Like the thing that those five shows have in common is that the characters are what make the story, because like they're all fucking weird shows.
that's what I was
Like
gonna say. It's like they all have an interesting like
they
concept.
have this really weird, unique, interesting concept, and then they have really compelling characters.
Mhm.
And then somehow something just falls apart. And it's hard not to blame it on him when you look at that whole stack up against each other and how they all fell apart. But I'm definitely seeing in this season 3 of Hannibal, well, I know why it was the last season,
Yeah.
because the curse of Brian Fuller has struck again. There's just something that's not quite
Yeah.
connecting.
That's why it's like a bummer. Like I get so excited when I see he's on new shows, but like Crystal Lake already dropped him and they haven't even come out yet. And it's like,
Right.
that's probably for the best. Like,
And wasn't was he
unfortunately, that's probably
was he on the first season of American Gods? Like, didn't he?
I
Was
think
that
so, but I
one?
never finished it. I didn't get into American Gods.
But I'm just thinking of another one that he was a part of and then wasn't anymore. Like,
Yeah, I think you're right though. I think it was American Gods. Um, but yeah, it's just and it's such a bummer because like he is so creative. He has such a creative mind.
I this is
But
gonna be
just
the
not enough follow
weirdest.
through.
This is gonna be the weirdest Google search. But has Brian Fuller ever not been fired?
I don't think he got fired on Hannibal. I think
No.
Hannibal just fell apart
Yeah.
because I think he hangs till the end, but that might be the only one.
Oh, Brian Fuller has been. It just says yes. Brian Fuller has been fired from multiple shows. Yes, I'm aware.
Yes,
Um,
yes, we know that part.
because he got fired from Friday the 13th, obviously. He got fired from
Mhm.
Star Trek Discovery. He got fired from Amazing Stories. Um,
Amazing
he,
Stories was the other one I was thinking about.
oh yeah, he got fired from Dead Like
Mhm.
Me. Yeah.
Bless his heart.
And also
Well,
like he got fired, but like also some of the articles say he just gave up and left.
yeah,
Like, and they're like, well, there was some creative differences. Like, okay, I creative differences is the most Hollywood cop out answer ever.
for sure. Oh my
But
gosh,
I
yeah.
also think with him, it's like legitimate. Like he just is like, I don't want to do it anymore, and walks away. And they're like, oh, okay.
He is the most ADHD response to creativity. Like he's just like,
Yeah,
here's this crazy idea. All right, I'm done now.
yeah,
Moving on to the next one. Like I mean, to an extent, I get it. I feel like that would be me if I like actually invested in my creativity because that's why I write more short stories than I do anything else because I can do it and then be done with it. Like
yeah.
so I get it to an extent, but it's not great when you want to do seven again though. ADHD, you dive in and you're like, I'm doing this for 30 seasons and it's no question. In 3 seasons, you're like, yeah, I'm done now. So
Yeah, but then also like things like he did a pilot for Mockingbird Lane, and then like, which I was really excited about that. Never went anywhere.
didn't that it I thought someone else did something with it. Did they
Um,
not? Or did I just like read a story about it?
I don't think it ever went. I think it was just no, it was just the pilot. It didn't
Hmm,
go any further than that. Um,
interesting.
yeah. So, but
Yeah.
and it didn't get picked up because of creative differences with the network, which then comes back to once again, Why can't he just follow through on
What
anything?
network was that supposed to be on?
NBC.
Mhm.
But the weird thing is, then Hannibal started the next year.
I was gonna say this was pre-Hannibal
It was
though. Yeah.
pre-Hannibal. Hannibal started the next year. So like the network, that one could have genuinely not been his fault.
Well, also like NBC has so many different departments, even like throughout TV and like even through like all of that. Like there's so many different
Yeah.
teams and departments that it's very possible one was with one team, one was with another. Like, so who knows?
Well, and that's the thing. So actually, the NBC chief said that they didn't pick it up after the pilot, um, because they said we decided that it didn't hold together well enough to yield a series. It looked beautiful and original and creative, but it ultimately just didn't come together.
Sure.
Which you could put that next to any show he's made,
Yep.
and it would be the same story,
Absolutely.
which is
Which is a bummer.
because his stuff is creative and beautiful and original.
And I mean, we covered Dead Like Me and Hannibal, and we're still having new things to talk about with Brian Floyd. There's so much surrounding him, like as a person.
Yeah.
It's just,
And obviously, like we're not completely anti his work
yeah.
because this is the second
I
Brian
love
Fuller
Brian Fuller.
right. This is the second Brian Fuller show that we've covered in full on the
Yeah.
podcast. Like we're clearly not like anti Brian Fuller people. It's just so frustrating because
Yeah.
we do like what he puts out so much, and then we always get disappointed, and yet we keep coming back for it.
Yeah. That's called, what is that? What is it called? Oh
Oh,
God. What is you keep going back to things that hurt you.
oh, I was gonna say that he's like a narcissistic ex-boyfriend.
Yes,
He's
yes.
breadcrumbing us, and we keep
Breadcrumbing
falling.
us. Oh,
He's breadcrumbing us, and we keep falling
ugh.
for it.
It's oh terrible.
The
Terrible.
first season of every Brian Fuller show is a love bomb.
Absolutely. That is the best description I've ever heard. Like, oh my God. Bless his heart. Ugh. Well, who do you want to punch in the face?
Chio for fucking pushing Will off
For
train.
sure, my God, for sure. Bless it. She's a wild card. I don't really know what to do with her yet.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, that was crazy. I thought they were gonna be like lover lovers. Obviously not. Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I really thought she was about to help him kill Hannibal.
me too.
I don't know why I fell for that
I
shit.
mean, we know he doesn't die, so like
Right,
maybe
no,
that
no, no,
wasn't the
but like
outcome.
we knew it wasn't gonna succeed, but like I didn't think it was because
Yeah,
she was gonna backstab him and push him off a train.
right. Right. So because you picked her, I'm gonna go with Patsy. Again, I understand he died, but
But
look,
he had so many other choices.
you decided to be a crooked politician, a political person. I don't even know what his top inspector, I don't know what his actual title is. Um, but like, you should have just turned him in.
Yeah,
You've been fighting this case for so many years.
yeah,
You should have done that. You would have gotten all the praise. You probably would have gotten a raise. It would have been $3 million, but you would have been fine.
yeah.
You're living a decent life. You're in Italy. It's not that expensive there. So just hang in there. Bless his heart. So who's your MVP?
Um, I really don't think anyone made intelligent decisions in this episode. Except for I'm gonna have to give it to Alana because she like tried.
She stresses me out.
She does stress me out. She's an idiot. She's an idiot. But like
Yeah.
she solved the question of where Hannibal was.
Hmm.
She did try to warn Patsy that Mason was not the correct choice. Like
Sure, sure.
she's trying.
Yeah. Bless
She's
it.
failing, but she's trying.
Right. Which is her entire character arc. Um, that's fine though. Um, bless her. So
Yeah.
since you picked Alana, oh God, I don't like anyone. Um, I'm gonna go with Patsy's wife
And she was
because she
harmless.
just seemed lovely and
Yeah.
she knew that everyone was in over their heads and just was like, what has happened? But didn't get involved because she didn't want to die. So here we are.
Here we
I do have
are.
a couple of bits for you.
I love
Um,
it.
let's see.
Other than the fact that it is absolutely viciously illegal to toss your ashes into the river in Italy.
Yeah, I didn't even save that one because I did know that one before I read it. So the meaning of the title contorno refers to the side dishes on a meal, which I feel like a lot of us have heard.
Yep.
So the story arc in this episode with Patsy is identical to the storyline in the movie Hannibal, so we'll see this again.
Okay.
And a lot of the dialogue is very similar.
Oh,
So
good. Cool.
keep that in your mind when we get to the movie.
So I'll forget that too.
Yeah. La Ladra by Giacchino Rossini is used for the fight scene in this episode. It was also used for the scene where Moriarty executes his plan in the episode The Reichenbach Fall of Sherlock. And
Yes,
both the music is used to accompany a tightly choreographed and consequential series of movements in a pivotal scene.
You know, I knew it sounded familiar.
It has been too long since I've watched Sherlock. I should probably rewatch it. But I believe that is true. I just haven't watched it in a very long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. I feel like I should just like rewatch that every like 5 years or something.
I think that's fair. Fair. There was one goof. When Renato Pazzi looks up Lecter on his computer, the big banner reads "Voluto per omicidio," as in wanted for homicide. And voluto in Italian is the past participle of volere, which means won't. However, in this context, it should have been ricercato. So the proper translation would be ricercato per omicidio, which would be wanted for homicide.
Got it.
And so they used like a direct translation as opposed
to
translation.
Yeah, so Google Translate did it for them.
Exactly. Yeah. But that
actually,
is all I have.
To be honest, Google Translate's actually not as bad as people make it out to be. It's pretty decent.
Well, it's gotten better.
Yeah. I mean, 2012 Google Translate was probably shit.
Probably, yeah. But yeah, so that is the end of that. We will be back again next week with something. Who's to say? But in the meantime, if you want to email us or whatever, you can email us deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you on Sunday for Sci-Fi Sunday that we don't know what's going to happen.
Correct.
Yay!